Welcome to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yachts, and today is my guest, Erika Arlee. This is part 2 of my interview. She is a writer, a director, and one of the founders of Honeyhead Films. Enjoy. I loved, I'm going to butcher the name again, Somnium.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool idea of like
Mm-hmm.
this woman, who's kind of deaf, but she's not what we perceive as deaf. She's kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
sarcastic, it's kind of like Audrey
Mm-hmm.
Plaza, who shows up as deaf. Reminded me of like Meet Joe Black a little bit with
Oh
that,
yeah, for sure.
you
It
know,
definitely has those vibes. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Another great score. Probably the
Mm-hmm.
score's better than the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I wrote down. It reminded me of Meet Joe Black meets The Seventh Seal.
Mm-hmm.
because they're like discussing what's going on, and I thought that was such a cool idea. So to talk oh, wait a minute. No. Yeah, tell me. Wait a minute. I mixed the two up.
They have like the same
Somnium is
name.
the one with Interior. Somnium is the one where the girl is which I love that
In
scene.
sleep cycles. Yeah.
When she's in sleep cycles and like he's kind of like trying to wake her up from the dream. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought it had such a nice pace to it. And the theater thing, that reminded
Mm-hmm.
me of Twin Peaks and a little bit of like
Mm-hmm.
Mulholland Drive of like, this is the
Mm-hmm.
red room. And I love
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So I just
Yeah.
was like seeing that and everything. So we'll get back to Interior. I mixed the two up.
Oh, it's okay. They have
Somnium.
very similar names.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the concept of how do you say somnium? Is that how you
Yeah.
say it? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That idea, I that film is very near and dear because it was the first film we produced as Honeyhead. And it was a concept that I've been fascinated with for a while, which is the idea of dreams and what our mind does when we're dreaming. And I feel that we're in this sort of open, more awakened state of consciousness to the point where you could share thoughts with someone and share dreams. And that's always been something I've been fascinated by, because I have had experiences of sharing subconscious information with people before, and through when you're asleep. So I think that there's something fascinating about that to me, and I wanted to just play with that idea of two people who could maybe connect through dreams when they haven't even met before, if they're like tuned, if their brains somehow are tuned to the same frequency. So that film was a little exploration of that, and we got into the edit. Actually, a funny bit of trivia about that film is we got into the edit, and no one understood the movie. It was like wait, and everyone that watched it was like, huh, like we don't really understand what happens to her. And we
It's
were
like,
like,
what
well,
do you
maybe
mean? It's this.
we should have. They were like, we don't understand why she's sad. And we were like, oh, it's because her mom died and her dad's now this kind of deadbeat guy, in the chair. And people just didn't really get it. So Christy and I actually were taking a trip to Dublin with my family, and we brought a camera along, and I filmed Christy in like these interesting Irish woods, and like all the waterfall kind of slow motion, kind of weird shutter thing that you see was all actually like random pickups we shot in Ireland because we were trying to make the film make sense. So it's like a total exercise in like first time filmmaking, which is really fun. So I still have a lot of fond memories of that movie.
I love that like,
Yeah.
because that gives it a different texture. You get that like this is dreamlike. It's like Blade Runner when he sees the horse come, the unicorn there. It's, so I love all those things. That's interesting that you didn't even have that in there. It's just like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's like,
It was way too heady. It was like it was way too subtle. People just weren't really getting it. We were like, well, maybe we can try to like put in, because like the guy that plays the dad is actually my dad. So he was with us in Ireland. And so we like made him, be in these flashback vignettes and like stuff like that. So it was fun though. Yeah, that was like 2016. So it's but actually the actor who plays opposite Christy, I wrote a cameo for him in a song for Imogene. His name's Victor Rivera, and he's actually, since we shot Somnium, he has since moved to Atlanta pretty much right after, or no, sorry, he had already moved to Atlanta. He was like freshly in Atlanta and came back to North Carolina to shoot Somnium, and he has a great career down there now. He's a wonderful comedic actor, and kind of has like a Zach Galifianakis sort of adjacent thing going on, and has been in some movies with like Woody Harrelson and stuff like that. So he's doing really well for himself down in Atlanta. But I wrote a cameo for him and Imogene so he could come back and like share the screen with Christy again for our first feature, because he's been with Honeyhead, you know, for a while. I love writing for him.
It's so fascinating. You talk about the dreams, though. Just get back to that. I'm gonna this, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I'll wake up from a dream and I'll be going through, you know, life, and I'm like, did I say that, or did that happen in a dream? And it almost becomes like it happened already.
Yeah.
But it was in a dream. So I love the concept of dreams. I don't think enough artists, you know, use that. You know, like it's just such a place.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had very vivid dreams. So I think I often wake up with an idea and I have to write it down. I'm like, this was kind of cool. Maybe I'll incorporate that into something. So my brain often gives me very vivid story-like, movie-like dreams. And I've had experiences with people close to me, like my sister, where we've woken up, you know, like staying with the family for Thanksgiving somewhere, and we've been sleeping in the same bed. And I'll wake up and be like, I had the weirdest dream. There was like a koala and like this thing. And I start talking about it. She's like, I literally had the same dream. Like that has happened to me before with people who I'm intimate with in that way, like a sister.
That's
and
so cool.
Yeah, so it has kind of solidified.
Same dreams.
Yeah, maybe not like, you know, plot point to plot point, but like basically thematically the same idea. So it's really fascinating to me. I think in another life, I would want to like study the brain and, you know, all the and like our subconscious mind and the types of things we can, especially as creatives and writers, you know, what we can use our brains to do to generate ideas and stories. It's like, I think our brains are a lot more powerful than we give them credit for.
Yeah, I interviewed this person, Jessica Porter. She does hypnosis for actors, and it's really fascinating to see those. I'm really fascinated with hypnosis, because it's like hypnosis seems to be the only thing that can like kind of cut through right to the subconscious, which is where all our like true stuff lives. You know, like it's really hard to get to that place. We kind of have to just like wear it down to get there. But with like hypnosis, you can go straight to the heart of that thing. But I didn't want to bury the thing about the actor. That's great that, you know, you brought him back and that he, you know, I saw that the Zach Galifianakis kind of idea. But it's that I love that. I love the way you shot the stage and everything, and it just vivid.
Yeah, that's a beautiful historic theater in Wilmington. It's called Thalian Hall. It's quite old, and it has a very dreamlike, I think, sort of epic vibe to it.
But I like that, because it's like, you know, taking it to a place that, you know, the story is never going to go to, you know, truly, and like giving it these scenes, these dreamlike scenes, so that it just makes it stand out. I love that. So, all right, back to Interitum. Interitum. Sorry, I mixed that up.
It's okay. They have very similar names.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like, wait a minute. Oh, yes, Interitum. Talk a little bit about that, how Interitum came about.
So that was a film idea and script that was brought to us by a local actress, and the gal that plays Death, Ariana Tysinger, brought that to us, and she wanted Christy to play a character in the film, and then Christy was like, but if I'm going to be in it, I want it to like look really good, you know. So she wanted Honeyhead to produce it. So we came on board, and Ariana had raised a bit of money to help finance the project. So we were able to come on board and help her produce that. So I kind of doctored the script a little bit and pared it down because it was about a 36-page script when they brought it to us. Her and her writing partner. It was a little long, so we got it down to about 18 pages. And just it was kind of written for the stage, it sort of felt, and so we just kind of like tried to parse it down, take away some of the expositional dialogue, and really make it fit for the screen in a sense. And we filmed it in several different locations. We filmed it in Wilmington and then also in Chapel Hill. So the oneer through the house, through the party, is shot in Chapel Hill, and then the Forest Theater is in Chapel Hill, where we have the final scene. And then the other locations are in Wilmington. So that was kind of a dual effort there. Yeah, it was like a dual effort. And I think it's a really fascinating story. And Christy's brother actually scored it. So it was kind of this that was also an early Honeyhead film where, we were still, calling on our community a lot to rally people around this like narrative filmmaking.
Plus it's a night shoot.
Grits.
A lot of it's night, and that
a lot of it at night. Yeah.
A pain to light and stuff.
Yeah. We had some help. Our friends who live in Raleigh helped and came out for the Chapel Hill shoots and helped us, operate the Ronin that we shot that big oneer on, and they helped us come light the Forest Theater. And so we've just always been really community focused and forward with Honeyhead. So that was definitely an example of that. But we love the story, and that actually won Best Dramatic Short at Tryon Film Festival, which is the festival we were just at last weekend, giving a talk. So we submitted it to that, and it actually won. I think people just are fascinated by the character of Death, and the whole concept is very original.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I thought it was a really cool way to do it. Especially she's like the little girl there. She's like, I'm scared. It's like, there's nothing to be scared.
Yeah, that hospital scene is actually shot at in like the teaching ward at Cape Fear Community College, because we were like, as like indie filmmakers, in 2017, how are we going to get into like an actual hospital? And we were able to.
My friend is dying.
Yeah.
Can we just maybe they could just act.
So
can we just have a few minutes, a few hours alone? We'll be out of your hair. We'll sign all that paperwork there. Everything leaves. Yeah, no, that'll be hard. But it looks like a hospital, so I mean it works.
I think we did a really good job. That's the first short film I ever DP'd, so that was the first time I had shot a film.
Do you have a preference? Would you rather direct or be the cinematographer?
I like directing. I love working with actors. I love light and I love composition. But I like talking about that. So I think as a cinematographer, I have like a good sense as a director of understanding, what the capabilities are of whatever team we're working with. And I understand that, but I love seeing breakdown and character breakdown and story and all of those things. So I like being involved in the whole vision, not just camera, but I do love composition and light and all those things that I think cinematographers have a love language for as well.
Interesting. So now we're going to talk about a song for Imogen. Imogene is how do you
Imogene.
Imogene. A song for Imogene, which started off as short Lorelei, correct?
Yeah. It was originally and our feature was actually originally named Lorelei, but but we renamed it. And that started off as a short film that I wrote when Christy and I were before Honeyhead. So the script for Lorelei actually precedes Honeyhead. When Christy and I had first moved to Wilmington and we were just acting. We were both just focused on acting. We actually had the same agent, and we would put each other on camera, and if Chrissy had an audition, I would be her reader and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it was just always a little underwhelming, the types of roles we were reading for, and to have to drive to Atlanta and back for a callback for like a one-line waitress role, or like the hot girl at the party or something, was just so, we were just over it. We were like,
Girl in corner.
yeah, it's like, oh man. And so especially as like, young
Yeah.
blonde women are in our early 20s, it was like that, the types of roles we were reading for, we just wanted more control over the narratives and the way that the type of work that we did, not just as actors but as creatives. And I was like, I really want us to play sisters. So I wrote this script in like one night. It was like the first and only draft of the screenplay, and then it sat on the shelf because it was 2015 and we hadn't started Honeyhead. We weren't filmmakers at that point, and we didn't actually shoot the film until the summer of 2017 in August. And it was one hot production day, and with a small crew, like very small crew, on location in Four Oaks, North Carolina. Our first AD Page, it was her parents' family property, and that was kind of all we were expecting to do with the film, was just make it. I edited it on my MacBook Air in like our house, like it was back in like the good old days, when
iMovie.
yeah, it was Premiere, thankfully.
Oh, it
but
was Premiere. Okay, good.
yeah. But yeah, but we didn't really expect to do anything with it, and we submitted it to, I think, one or two festivals, and it got programmed. And from there, festivals actually started asking to program it. People would see the print traffic, they would see our poster and the image on there of Christy and I, like in front of this huge falling over tobacco barn that's like eaten by the landscape, and be like, what is this film? We want to screen it. And so the film actually started to exceed, I guess, I should say we kind of started to outgrow the film as a production company and as filmmakers, like the production value. I think like the story holds up, but the production value, like we were sort of outgrowing the
Well, that's why you said
value.
you guys have kind of like dropped it behind like it's on Vimeo, but it's like hidden.
Yeah, we I think, but what that kind of told us was that what people were connecting with were the characters, and people would ask, I saw this film and I'm so curious about the characters and what's next for them. Are you going to turn this into a feature film? So when it came time to produce a song for Imogene, or I should say when it came time we felt ready to produce our first feature and start to entertain that possibility, we knew what story it was we should tell, because the audience was asking for it. People were wanting to know what was going to happen with these sisters. So I started writing the screenplay at the end of 2019, and I didn't finish the first rough draft of the feature till April of 2020, because the pandemic happened, and so all of our work at Honeyhead, our client facing work, came to a huge halt, and I was able to kind of reorient my focus and finish the screenplay. And it was very different than the film we shot this past summer, but it was a start. It was like a 102 page start. So yeah.
So now you're in post-production right now for this, so this hasn't been seen yet.
It has not. We sent out screeners we've had a private screening of this most recent cut with a test audience, but other than that, no one has seen it. And we are aiming to picture lock the film by mid-November, by the 16th, so that we can start submitting it to festivals. So we're going to go for, our distribution plan is to go for a festival run, while also, talking with different aggregators or distributors. We're going to be kind of like parallel passing there with festival submissions, and then also having talks, because ultimately we want to sell the film so that we can make the next one.
Yeah. So can you talk about the reception to it, or do you want to keep that to the chest?
It's been good. I think that it's an interesting process of putting your work out there, especially when, you know, you've been working on it for so long. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting to just see what people feel. We know that our cut is too long now. The director's cut is, you know, I think per usual, longer than the film will end up being.
How long is
But
it?
2 hours. Yeah.
That's not bad.
It's
I
not
think you're gonna
bad,
tell me
but
like 4 hours or something. And be like,
yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
that's a little too long.
But that's just part of the growth process. So I think that
Yeah.
there's a lot of like, you know, beats and air and thing that will probably come out of the film. But they always say you tell a story 3 times: when you write it, when you shoot it, and when you edit it. So this is just the third retelling of the story, because it was certainly retold on set. I was cutting things, vignettes I knew we
Yeah.
didn't need, or I would say, "Oh, can we tweak this dialogue or add this line or add this contextual shot?" You know, and
Yeah.
so even on set, the script was this road, you know,
How many
roadmap,
days
but we
did you
were
how many days did you guys shoot?
21.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. So so it's definitely the third retelling now.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
just getting it ready. Oh, that's good. That's
hmm
good. Yeah, no, it's you know, working on something and then putting it out there and being like, does anybody like this? What do we, you know, what is the reaction to it? You just don't know. But it sounds like it's gonna be really good. One of the things that's fascinating about is I'm a big wrestling fan. So I saw the shirt immediately and I was like, oh, I know that shirt. You know, it's like and then I didn't know that like the shirt became this huge thing, the NWO shirt.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
So
Christy found that
funny.
shirt at the Goodwill and people
Yeah.
freaked out about it. Honestly, people would see frames of us and they would be like, they would freak out about the shirt. It like became a whole thing.
The
It was a
shirt.
whole, yeah,
I mean, when I
it was
saw
like
it,
a
I was
big
like,
driver of traffic to the short film. And you're like, we had no
I was
idea
like,
this was just a Goodwill.
that's probably, and I was like, that's probably what they would wear. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
yeah,
it's sort of a nice knockoff shirt of, you
I
know,
know.
a time there. But yeah, now it's just like, what, you know, yeah, who cares about the movie? What about the shirt?
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So wrapping up here, one of the things I wrote down when I was going through your Instagram was I thought this was great. Time built this callus between my heart and the world, buried me deep in what could have been. I love that line.
Thank you.
It was such a beautiful line. And is that in the film?
It's
Or
it's
don't tell
it's
me.
not on the imaging Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw it in one of the captions.
the imaging Instagram has become kind of like a visual and lyrical kind of, I don't want to say journal, but it's kind of like my
Yeah.
thoughts on the film and what the characters might be thinking. And so those lines didn't make it into the film, but I wanted people to be able to come to the page and understand, you know, how these characters feel in a kind of a poetic way,
Yeah.
because I love poetry and I love writing poetry. And so it was kind of like my love letter to the film in this way. And we really want to share frames, but we got some advice from a publicist that we shouldn't share anything until we have a distributor and they can decide how they want to go about doing that. So the Instagram is kind of just there as this like time capsule right now in a way. And it's been really fun to share those words with people, and hopefully it kind of lets them into how these characters might be feeling, because they are kind of a universal voice for the types of people that are portrayed in the film.
You should use it as a tagline, like
Oh yeah.
in some of the marketing,
Okay.
because of the type of film you're going to do. You could
Yeah.
do a longer tagline, and I think it,
Yeah.
you know, I think it could work in an
Okay.
indie
I like
film.
that.
You
I
know,
appreciate that. Yeah.
is it such a, you know, it's, when I read that, I just was like, that says everything. Time built this callus between my heart and the world, you know, just,
Yeah.
and that's something that I noticed also about a lot of your characters are like, you know, feel like time's passing them by. and that they're, looking back on it. I
Yeah.
imagine there's a lot of that in A Song for Imogene, where
Mm-hmm.
she's looking back at, what has become of my life,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah. And she's kind of at risk of getting lost in that in a way and not being able
Yeah.
to ever actually move forward. These cycles of poverty and these things that trap people. And where they can't get out. I feel like their past and the time that they've spent have kind of like locked
Yeah.
them in a cage. I think the way that we describe Cheyenne is she's a bird in a cage with
Yeah.
the door wide open.
Yeah, that's great imagery too. Yeah. She's a bird in a cage. Yeah, the door is open, but she just can't get by past it. She's just stuck, It's like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Shoot Like a Girl. How did that come about?
That is that program came about from what we call the Honeyhead Mentorship Program. So part of the initiative of Honeyhead is to also educate and uplift the next generation of female filmmakers, because we do have a female filmmaking initiative as a company, since we're female run and we care about balancing out the gender gap in our industry. And our business partner in Shoot Like a Girl, Sam McLeod, is a former educator. She's from Wake County and she was a high school teacher. And so she brought this idea when she moved to Wilmington. She had this idea. She loved Honeyhead. She found out what we were about, and we were able to collaborate on starting this new LLC that educates high school girls in a 2-week intensive over the summer, where they write and direct and complete their own short film.
Oh, that's great.
So we had our inaugural season this past summer, and it's such a wonderful learning platform for these girls. We had 12 of them in the course this summer, and just the creativity and the like open-mindedness that comes with kind of freeing these kids from the confines that they have in perhaps their normal educational environments, and bringing them someplace where they can see all these other women, because the crews for their short films were shot professionally by women in the industry. They were edited professionally, and so they got to work with all of these women and see them doing things that they might want to do. They got to sit in an editing session with a professional editor and have their voices be heard and have their creative opinions respected.
That's
watching
great.
all of that was such a magical experience. So we're feeling really optimistic about the future of that program and the company as a whole, and the ability of our film partners in Wilmington getting behind it and helping fund the camp. And we were able to actually raise $18,000 worth of scholarship money for this past year, because we wanted the camp to have full access for girls of all different demographics and backgrounds and socioeconomic statuses. So it was really important for us to diversify the student body for the camp, and the Film Commission and partnership really got behind that in Wilmington, which was really exciting for us.
I mean, I love the fact that you have them sit down with an editor so they can see the actual process and walk them through. That's one of the hardest things, it's not the shooting thing. Then it's like, oh, now I got to look at the editing of that. So that's a great way to give back. Where do you see the future of Honeyhead Films?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I mean, ultimately we want to continue to be a narrative film production house and produce our own original content, and then also champion other filmmakers, who have stories that they want to tell, and whose either, their personalities or their initiatives as an individual or their stories align with our branding. And I want Honeyhead to be this umbrella. I love that it has an umbrella, of Shoot Like a Girl, of our film projects, and really be able to become the first, female-led independent studio in our region. Is what
do you have a model for who what you're basing it off of? No?
Not really. I mean, we're
Okay.
I'm sure there are, you know, we always kind of I love, A24 as an example
That's
of
what
a
that's what
of
I
a
was leading
brand.
to too.
Yeah,
Say
yeah, and I
24.
love what they do with their marketing and the
Yeah.
fact that they have a diverse slate of films, and films that kind of surprise people and break barriers,
Yeah.
and they're kind of I don't know if you would consider them independent any longer
Mm,
necessarily, but they, I think, definitely started out that way, as I felt like I could always count on an A24 film to like bring me a specific type of
yeah.
content that was well done, but it was not something that I would like, you know, go sit at the Regal Cinema and watch necessarily, but it
Yeah.
was things I really wanted to consume as an audience member. And I like, even still, if an A24 if A24 puts its stamp on a movie, I'm like, that's probably a really good movie. So I hope that that's what Honeyhead can become too.
Go see the film Men. That's a
Mm,
fascinating film
yeah.
with Alex Garland. If you liked Ex Machina, he's the same
Mm-hmm.
director, and he did Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
He does some really interesting stuff with that film. I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend that film. Wrapping up here. So, do you have a beginning of the day routine?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Trying to spend at least a little bit of time outside or reading something to start the day. I'm like the kind of person whose brain has to like uh kind of wipe his slate clean, at the top of the day. So trying to either read or write or, take a walk, something at the top of the day to like ease my mind and be like allow the day to kind of like paint the picture, in my mind of what it's going to become. If I don't do that, I usually have like a whole scrambled egg brain the rest of the day. So I usually try to
Mm,
make time for some kind of physical activity or reading or writing or something that's going to help my brain kind of like decompress and like get ready to go. So that I usually, no morning is ever really the same, because sometimes I'm like
mm,
waking up at 6 to make it to set, or
yeah.
so it's like there's not a whole lot of routine in my life, but if I find little pockets and little things to do at least every morning that don't always take too long, then that usually helps.
Interesting. Do you have a
Yeah.
nighttime routine?
Um, Dog snuggles.
Do you meditate?
I do.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to do that. Also to fall asleep, I like to, um, you know, ease the mind. That helps a lot. Listening to like guided meditations or just music, that helps relax my brain away from the world. And I try to leave my phone out of my bedroom. I think everyone should
Interesting.
try to do that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Um,
Yeah, it's hard, well, because also now it's like music is on all of our phones
I
too. So
know.
even that is like,
So it's
it's
like, is
hard.
that
So
really the phone? I mean, that's kind of more
yeah,
I'm listening to it for music.
yeah,
And just
yeah,
disable the phone part. That's the
yeah,
next thing where you can just disable the phone part and
yeah,
just have the music.
yeah.
What are you reading right now?
I am reading a novel called The Overstory, and
Mm,
the author is, I'm gonna look it up really quick because the author is escaping me. Richard Powers, The Overstory. It's a collection of short stories that are all
mm.
thematically related, and all of the characters have some kind of significant life experience that has to do with a tree.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's kind of about trees and their perspective on like the human experience over many, many years. So sometimes one of the stories will be, um, take place over 10 years. Some might take place over like 5 generations. And somehow a type of tree is important in the story or has like witnessed everything. And
The tree has seen all.
the story always kind of like backs out into the tree's perspective almost, but it's like some of some very tasteful writing and some of my favorite stuff I've ever read, as
Oh,
far as like short content, because sometimes I like to just digest like 20 pages at a time and not have to
yeah,
like sit down with the whole novel.
yeah, yeah. No, I,
Mhm.
I get that. What are you watching right now?
Um, I will admit I've been suckered into the new Game of Thrones spin-off show.
The House of Dragons. Yeah, I think we're all been
I'm
watching
like a
that.
low-key nerd for fantasy, like Lord
It's
of the
so
Rings and
good.
stuff. So so I've definitely been sucked into that. But
It's been good.
yeah, it's been really good.
So much better than the 8th season of Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, where we all
Yeah.
sat and were like, I wasted 10 years of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
But this is what you came up with.
Yeah, so I try to make it a point to watch films. I program for the Cucalores Film Festival in Wilmington, so I watch features. So I spent a while this summer watching other people's work, which I think is fun.
Yeah.
But try to watch films pretty regularly. You know,
Yeah,
sometimes I'll
same
just
here.
go into Netflix or HBO and I'll just click something like this feels like it could be interesting just to like see how everyone else
Yeah.
is doing their craft.
I just watched a film called Frank, which I've always wanted to see, and it's Michael Fassbender plays a character. He's like in a band, and he's wearing a plastic head over his face. Domhnall Gleeson is like the main actor, and
Interesting.
you're seeing it. But you should look at that. When I was watching that, I was like, from doing the research, I was like, I bet she would like this movie.
Okay,
Like
I'll check it
this is
out.
something about that. Yeah, certain
Yeah.
women and men and
Right.
Frank. Yeah,
Okay.
pretty interesting films.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
this. This has
Yeah.
been fun, you know?
Yeah,
I
thank you.
love hearing about your process. How can people reach you?
You can follow me on Instagram, Erika, Erika .Arlee, Arlee. You can follow Honeyhead Films, which is just at Honeyhead Films, and our feature film Imaging, which is just at Imaging Movie. And it's kind of, I guess I should spell Imaging probably, IMOGENE Movie.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. This has been really fun.
This has been fun.
Yeah.
Okay, that about does it for my interview with Erika Arlee. This is the end of part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I suggest you check out honeyheadfilms.com. As always, you can find me at Justin Yance, and thank you for listening. And I will see you next time on the DMF.